Hey guys, it's Tamara. I'm back with another video today. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. We're going to jump into the topic of traumatic bonding. A lot of you have asked that I focus on traumatic bonding, and so I figured maybe we can jump into that before we jump into other subjects, okay? So thank you so much for coming back to my channel for those who are subscribed. And for those who are not, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stick around with me and stick around with the audience and our community and learn a little bit more about trauma. For the next 3.5 weeks, we're going to be talking about trauma. It's a 4-week series on emotional and psychological trauma. So today we're gonna zone in and focus in on traumatic relationships and how they can lead to a term known as traumatic bonding. So the benefits for you in today's video is that you're going to learn about the 9 signs that you are bonded to your abuser. And I also want to define what traumatic bonding is for you, because there's a lot of definitions out there and they're not all the same. So when you hear about the term traumatic bonding, what comes to mind for you? A lot of my clients will say things like, you know what, I thought traumatic bonding was like, the kind of thing that hostages feel when they begin to like their kidnapper and things like that. And so, yes and no, right? Traumatic bonding is a little bit different than a hostage situation where the hostage becomes connected or bonded to the abuser or the kidnapper. Traumatic bonding is basically this. It is an emotional and psychological bond that has been created as a result of a pre-existing relationship, like a caregiver, a parent, a marriage. The individual who is the abuser alternates between periods of negative and abusive and traumatic behavior to positive, charming, and emotionally capturing behaviors, right? Loving, sweet, considerate, compassionate, charming, all of that, right? So you have the positive sides of that individual that's alternating with the negative sides of the individual. And what happens is what is known as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is basically a term that refers to 2 alternating opinions or beliefs or conclusions. And because it's very difficult to hold those 2 conclusions at the same time, you end up abandoning one in favor of the other. And so let me give you an example of that. So let's say that your father has physically, emotionally, and sexually abused you. Because you cannot figure out how to marry those characteristics of your father with the loving, wonderful, supportive, financially supportive father that he is, you end up abandoning the fact that he's abusive to you, and you hold on to the perception that he is just a good person, right? Making mistakes or doing the wrong thing. I think we also experience cognitive dissonance when we're looking at the news, right? When we see somebody that we trusted, like a pastor, a therapist, a medical doctor, a surgeon, a music artist, right? Those kind of things, those kind of people and professions, we end up experiencing cognitive dissonance, right? We have a hard time seeing somebody who's a doctor, a therapist, a lawyer, a surgeon, a music artist who comes across one way. We have a hard time holding that view while also holding the view that they have sexually molested someone, right? So what do? We abandon the negative assumption for the positive assumption, and we hold on to that. And that is basically traumatic bonding, right? Your emotions and your psychological, your psychological desires for that person become stronger than the reality. All right. So there are 9 signs, guys, that I have identified, and a lot of people have identified as proof that you have become traumatically bonded to your abuser. All right. So the first sign is over-identification with the abuser, right? You overly identify with the abuser. You believe that if you just try to understand them, because I'm the only one who can understand them, I'm the only one who he trusts, I'm the only one that's in her life to help her, right? When you have those kind of thoughts, you're over-identifying with the abuser, and it really is cognitive dissonance. All right. The next one is feeling indebted to the abuser. You're the one being abused and misused, and yet you feel indebted. You feel like you need to be a part of that individual. you don't need to be a part of that abuser, right? But you feel indebted to them because, again, there's an alternating positive and negative perception of you of that individual. So you feel indebted to the positive person that's there, and you totally abandon the fact that they are negative. All right. So that's the other one. The third one is feeling that he or she needs me, right? I'm going to be with this abuser because they need me right now. I'm going to be with this abuser because I'm the only one who can understand them. All right. That's another sign that you've become traumatically bonded to your abuser. The fourth one is beginning to minimize, deny, and explain things away. Well, he sexually abused me because he wasn't getting sexual stimulation from my mother. I've had trauma clients come in and say that very thing to me. Another idea would be, well, I know that, he robbed a bank. I know that he raped an elderly woman and took her wallet and spent all her credit cards. I know that he hit my daughter really hard and my daughter suffered a concussion. But he really is a broken man on the inside. He really is hurt. He really needs help, right? Explaining things away, minimizing things, and straight up denying them, all right? Protecting the abuser. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. She didn't do it. I promise you, they've never done anything to me like that, even though they probably have, right? But you're shielding and protecting the abuser, right? You've become traumatically bonded to that person. Allowing the abuser to be content and pleasing them just to make them happy. That's another one. The sixth one is allowing the abuser to run all over you and abuse you and trap you and make you feel stuck, all because you want to love and protect them, right? So kind of abandoning your needs for their needs, all right? The second one is wearing multiple hats within the relationship. So let's say that you are the daughter of a father who has sexually or emotionally abused you. Well, you've been in this relationship with your father for so many years, you don't see an escape route, right? So you just stay there, but you also play many hats for your father as well. You play the therapist when he needs to talk. You play the wife when he needs you to cook and clean. You play, the role of educator and teacher when he needs to look up something, right? You play the mother when the baby is crying, when your younger sister or brother is crying and you need to feed them and change their diaper. You're wearing multiple hats, and instead of getting defensive and angry with that, instead, these kind of individuals will say, you know what, this is just the way our family works, and I'm okay with that. Anything to make my dad happy. That's the kind of viewpoint that people who are in traumatic situations or abusive situations will reason, right? You rationalize. When you can't figure it out and you can't marry the two ideas of abuser and loving father, then you rationalize it, minimize it, deny it, and then that makes it more comfortable for you to be able to conceptualize, all right? The eighth one is covering emotions in front of the abuser. So you don't allow yourself to cry. You don't allow yourself to show anger. You internalize and push it away and act like it doesn't exist because you don't want to upset the abuser. All right, that's another one. The ninth and the final one is desiring love and affection from this individual, and kind of, ignoring the fact that you have emotional and psychological needs as well. But you desire this individual's love and affection so much that you're willing to push past all the abuse. You're willing to endure the abuse just to have that loving and affectionate side of that person. These are 9 signs that you are bonded to your abuser. I will come back and talk about medicating trauma symptoms. I also want to talk a little bit about trauma treatments. And then we're going to continue to talk about this subject, guys, until April the 1st. So this is just going to be our topic. Trauma therapy, traumatic relationships, right? Treatment, all of that stuff. So stick around, guys. I know a lot of you had chosen the topic of medicating trauma symptoms. So we will be focusing on that on Wednesday. I will see you soon. Have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye.
That's good.